Hey, what up? It's Quinn. And today we're back on chess.com and we're focusing on the idea of thinking about the other person while we're playing chess. So there's two states that we can be in terms of Eastern philosophy and a way of looking at things. There is an expansion and then there is a contraction. Now, there's cycles to this. So I'm not talking about the cyclical nature of expansion and contraction where you need to go through both phases in order to have a balanced life. I'm talking about a different kind of expansion and contraction where in the moment you want to be expanding yourself, you want to be coming into contact with more possibilities, you want to be um, open to new ideas, you want to be charismatic, you want to be in the flow, you want to be fluid, you want to be thinking about the other person. And in this case, the other person for me would be the audience. So I'm thinking about the audience as I am creating this content, and I'm not trying not to just think about myself and the moves that I'm playing and trying to optimize for the outcome of the game. So if I can do that successfully, then I can be a better commentator in the game. And also, I can be a better player as well. So, to help you understand this position right now, he's trying to take here. I got a bishop that's defending it, everything's all good. And he's also attacking my queen here, and we're defended by the rook, so that's all good too. We have a space advantage that we're trying to work with, and we can expand that a little bit by keeping our queenside pawns safe. So I'm going to play my knight out to c6. He's going to take, and I'm going to take with the bishop. And he's going to fianchetto his bishop. So we both have bishops looking at the long diagonals, but I have two fianchetto bishops to his one. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play my queen out somewhere, trying to decide where. Let's say to c7. Try not to spend too much time thinking about this move because my opponent here is moving very, very quickly, and both of us have just barely used up any time on our clocks. And he lands another knight into e5, and that's looking pretty good for him. I don't want him to take my bishop, so I'm going to move it back to b7. And he's going to offer a trade of a bishop on f3, which I think is an interesting idea. I don't have to take it. And in fact, I can play my rook out to d8 to hit his queen. And likely there's going to be a lot of exchanges coming up soon in this game. But first, I want to take over this d file, and then I want to maybe play my knight to d7. Is that a move that I can get away with? If I play rook d8, he plays queen e2, knight to d7. And if he takes, I can take his bishop instead of taking the knight. So let's give that a try. And then if he takes here, we can take his queen. So everything is fine there. And again, I'm just trying to also think from my opponent's perspective. What does he want to do? He wants to build up the pressure. He wants to try to win some material if he can. And he's going to allow me at the moment to penetrate down the d file by putting a rook on d2, but I don't know if necessarily going down that path is even going to be good for me. So I'm going to hold off on that for a moment. And instead, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take on f3 first. So let's get that out of the way. And he's got ideas of coming down and maybe giving me a check on a8. So I just want to prophylactically play my pawn up to h5. And I'm kind of tired of being the person that's coming up with all the ideas in this game. I want him to also take some of the responsibility in doing that. And he's just playing these quick tactical moves. So I don't want to entertain that for too long. I'm going to get my rook in the game and see if I can wreak some havoc in his position. He can play the knight back to f3 at any point. I'm just trying to not get behind the ball here on the clock any more than I have to. I want to stay ahead here. So he's going to play his rook his bishop out to um, that square, and I have to be careful not to get my piece trapped here. So I'm going to play my queen back to d8 so that I have this d7 square to retreat to with my rook if necessary. His bishop is obviously in a very active position, and we can offer to trade it off potentially, but I don't see a reason to do that yet. Let's let him keep his bishop where it is. This is an opponent who is just refusing to spend any time on the clock, so we have to find a way to nip at his bud and destabilize the position to our favor in some way or the other. And the way that we have, okay, so he plays, okay, wow. He places a knight to e4, forking my bishop, forking my rook and the knight on f6. So a very creative player. And I think I can just take the knight, and then he's going to take here. But then I can play maybe f6 to cut off his queen from the bishop. And then he's going to play his bishop to h6 because his bishop is hanging right now. And we have a nice penetration down the d file here that we like to work with. And we can play again our pawn up to g5, and is his bishop trapped? A very creative sequence here. He can take, but I can take and take back. And then he's got f4 to go to. So he's not super trapped. And then if I go here, takes, and then he's going to mate me on g7. So obviously I don't want that. I don't want any part to do with that at all. But I can win a pawn on h4. And in the process, weaken my king a little bit. Let's go for that. And his bishop has to retreat to this f4 square. And then we can poke at it again with e5 at some point to close down the position and make him retreat his bishop back to h2 and be very passive like that. Let's go for that. Just want to be very double-edged here and want to take some chances because we are a little bit down on the clock. He's actually going to sack his bishop. Totally a move that I didn't see coming. And he's going to bring his queen into the position very prominently now. And we have to do something about our knight. We can bring it back to, well, we maybe don't want to bring it back to here because he can take on c5. We might lose this pawn here. If we play here, he can take here, and then we can kind of pin his queen. But then we drop the knight, so we don't want to do that. Also don't want to drop this pawn. Is there any move that we can make that doesn't drop anything? Maybe I'm not seeing it. Freezing up a little bit now. Okay, let's put the knight on. Let's put the knight on. I don't really want to do that either. Okay, let's put the knight on f6, and he can take here. Yep. Then let's play the queen out to d6. Just try to maintain that connection. And then we have knight g4 coming up. And here what we're going to do is just get the king to a safe square, which I don't think is going to be very tricky. We just go up to g6. And we're going to try to make him regret sacrificing his bishop for the pawns there. And as he's making these moves, what I'm trying to do also is to not get into my own head. I'm trying to be successful in being very entrepreneurial on the board. So let's keep our queen in the action here with queen to e5. He might push this. We can just go behind the pawn with c2. But I'm trying to get a kingside attack going as well. He's going to deliver some checks. That's fine. And we can just run our king up the board here. So, okay, so he goes there. think rook c2 covers the c7 square. So let's play that move for now. And then again, we want to try to get the knight in on g4, and that's going to be very, very damaging to him. And there's not too many checks he can give into our position either. So let's see if we are surviving this or if we are letting him run all over us. I would say we probably have an advantage in this position. Okay, so he takes there. I don't know if he has the time for that, honestly, right now, because a vicious attack is going to be coming his way. And we don't even have to worry about this pawn here, in my opinion. The material is now completely even. He's got 3 extra pawns for the bishop, and our pawns are just these doubled and isolated H pawns. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4 M's in his bank account, but also pass pawns on the chessboard. But how is he going to stop this mating threat? He comes here, I can take here, and if he takes, I got a check here. He goes there and check here, check on H2 as mate, and that's going to be very hard to stop. He's going to have to spend some time to think about that. And then he also doesn't have any checks on our king because all of the squares are covered, and this is just a maiden 1 on H2. Okay. Let's go ahead and check the game review, and then we'll check on Lichess as well, which is our favorite platform for this type of thing, how that went. And we played a 70.8, so a very back and forth game, only a 1200 level, and our opponent played at a 1000 level during the game. So a lot of tension back and forth, and not the most accurate game on either player's part. Let's go to Lichess and discover exactly why that is and what happened during the game. First, let's figure out when we went out of book, and I'll switch over to Lichess analysis mode right now so you guys can see the board. Let me position this a little bit better for you guys. Maybe shrink that, or I guess I need to expand it. Okay, there we go. So I'm playing as black. Let's flip the board. And when did the game go out of book? So g6 is the most common move here. Bishop to d3, not the most common idea. Bishop to e2 was a lot better. I guess maybe bishop g4 ideas for black. Here he castles and I castle. We're still in book. c5. Here knight c6 or knight bd7 are the most common moves. But c5 is also a good move. It transposes to a different variation. And taking here is very uncommon. So here I have a slight advantage. And after this move, it says queen c7 is a good move. Let's try to expand on why queen c7. And the board is disappearing on me here. I think I've overloaded my computer once again. I've been having this issue. Okay, we're back. So the threat here is to play rook d8. So I'm clearing the d8 square for my rook. And then I can also push this pawn forward. And I can also play knight e4 to expose a double attack on the e5 knight. So queen c7, a pretty flexible developing move. And instead I played bishop to b7, which I didn't like as much. c4, b4, and then a3 was not so good. a5, it also didn't like. It likes playing queen to c7 here with the idea of allowing a takes b4 and then just playing c takes b4. And it actually likes this position for black with a5 coming up to support this pawn and a nice space advantage on the queen side. So here a takes b4 and capturing with the a pawn, again, it doesn't like. It likes capturing with the c pawn. So I guess maybe it doesn't like this exchange on a8. After taking here, it's much more of a symmetrical position. And then here b3 was not so good. And after b3, it likes playing knight to e4, exposing the attack here. And then with queen takes d8, bishop b2, and knight jumping into the c3 square. And then forcing an exchange. And we have this pass pawn on c3, and we've gotten rid of one of our opponent's very good pieces, and we have the bishop pair as well. And developing, trading off on f3, and then we just have pass pawn straight up on c3, and it gives this position a nice 1.5 advantage for black. Bishop b2, so a lot of back and forth mistakes, just kind of neither side really understanding the position very well and understanding what needed to be done here. Bishop b2, knight e5 actually was best. And after bishop e4, f3, queen takes d1, it leads to this position later on. And it says this is only slightly better for black with a negative 1.0. But let's try to fast forward to where the serious advantage came into play. So after queen d8, knight to e4, it really did not like because of knight takes. And then after bishop takes g7, f6 was the right idea. So once the game got into a more of a tactical territory, I was able to find the right idea here. And here, g takes h4, all of this is good. And then e5 was a bit of an inaccuracy. It says king to f7 was actually the best move here. Although, is e5 even one of the moves? Maybe not really. So we have an extra pawn, but it says it's -4, I guess because of how much, how good this knight is and how much material we have attacking on his king side. If we just kind of zoom forward with one of these variations, it eventually gets to a position that looks like this, where we have a pawn storm building up. Let's see how exactly we got to that position. So we forced him to play f3 to get rid of this pawn here so he can move his rook. And then we slide over, threaten to mate, and then he has to play g4. And we play the knight back, take on g4, and we get to scoop up a couple of pawns with our very active rook. So e5 allowed him to sack his bishop and create a very interesting game. But after c5, queen e5 wasn't the best. But then he blundered a mate in one with queen to f8 later. But even here, there was a mate in 8, starting with knight g4 again. Knight g4, and then we're threatening mate on h2. And he has to sacrifice his queen on f7 even to stop that. So it became a very sharp position that we eventually won, but not because of the most technically accurate moves. It was a very back and forth middle game where both sides had a chance to pick up an advantage and kept fumbling the advantage back to the other player, and then it stayed roughly even. And then in this endgame here, it's actually pretty even, but he just blundered the checkmate in one when he had the opportunity to maybe create some threats with his pass pawn. So a very calm game. I like the way that I played. And we got to, I think, pretty close to our all-time high rating, very close to that 1400 level that we've been going for. So I hope you guys have enjoyed watching this video. I hope you guys have gotten the lesson from the video as well, which is that I try to speak more to the mind of the audience and expand more and have more charisma as a result. And if you guys enjoy that, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. We do publish videos every day. I don't know why I said we. It's just a solo venture right now. I guess a collaboration with me and myself, if I were to quote Alex Hormozi. So yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow.